back of the rim. Garnett on the slam. Oh, using Curry way downtown. Oh, what a shot from Curry.
What's up, NBA fans? Dom2K on the mic, and before this video starts, I wanted to say that the names on this list probably aren't going to surprise you, because the video is less about finding players that nobody's ever talked about and more about talking about things that players are doing that nobody's really mentioned quite yet. There is one player on this list that not many people have mentioned in general, because only the fans of this team are probably watching them and they're not really on national TV, but you'll know more about him by the end of the video. And again, it is early, and I know for some people the season doesn't officially start till Christmas, so maybe that's why the chatter hasn't been as loud. But being that I follow the NBA kind of religiously these days, I just wanted to point out some things that I noticed that aren't getting too much clout. So the first player I have on this list is Russell Westbrook, and I know why nobody's really mentioning the guy yet. It's a couple of reasons. First of all, it might be a little bit of fatigue because we did so much Russell talk last year with the triple-double and all the amazing stuff he was doing. He really seemed like a cyborg. So the reason that he's not getting too much talk right now is because the Thunder, first of all, are 4-4, and this is after signing George and Carmelo. And the thing is, I haven't really blamed them for that much because this happens with almost every big three, and every time there's a huge amass of talent, we notice that it takes teams a while to kind of gel and get the things together, so I'm not worried about that 500 start. But the thing nobody's talking about with Westbrook is that even with these two other guys next to him, he's still almost averaging a triple-double. Yeah, it's only 8 games, but Russ has picked up right where he left off because he's averaging 20 points, really close to 10 rebounds, and 12 assists. I want to talk about this for a few reasons. You know, last year when he averaged a triple-double, that was actually something that I called in my predictions video. You can go back and watch it, and I said he was going to average a triple-double that year. But this year, I didn't predict that because I was saying he's going to have to share the ball with George and Carmelo, and so far that's happened. For the people that call him selfish, they're not really doing a lot of talking right now. Not only is he still averaging 12 assists, which right now is more than he averaged last year, of course he's got a little bit more talent, but he's also taking way less shots. So where he was taking 24 shots a game last year, he's currently taking 16, which is, I believe, the 3rd lowest shot attempts in his career. Of course, we all expected his points to go down, and you know, it's not quite as exciting to see him because he plays 100% all the time. But of course, the Westbrook that was averaging like 30 points and getting 50-point triple doubles, that Westbrook is probably gone with 2 other stars by his side. So the scoring is definitely going to be pretty low right now, but his efficiency has gone up also as he's shooting 45%, and you know, everybody's always gotten on Westbrook for his efficiency. And that was another thing that when Carmelo Anthony and George came along, people were saying how was this going to work, and I questioned it, but I never said it couldn't work. But a lot of people just straight up wrote that big 3 off, saying Westbrook is selfish and he's gonna ruin it. And all I'm saying is, if you're a Westbrook detractor, keep the same energy you had last year, because right now he's proving a lot of people wrong, and I think the wins are gonna end up coming. They're a 500 team, but Miami was a 500 team when they put their big 3 together. Cleveland struggled out of the gate when LeBron came back, so those wins I believe are gonna come for the Thunder. But right now, as far as Westbrook, he's still playing as versatile as he was last season. He's made room for his teammates, and he's given himself a chance to average a triple-double for the 2nd season in a row, which would be amazing. So in all fairness, at the beginning I did say Westbrook has picked up right where he left off, and yeah, his turnovers is still the same as last year. They're at 5.4. That's one thing that surprised me, because I assumed with other players having the ball in their hands and other stars to pass to, he wouldn't turn over the ball quite as much, and that was one of my excuses for him last year, was like, well, who is he playing with? So hopefully those go down, but I felt like I had to mention that just to keep it unbiased. The next player nobody's really raving about, and I know exactly why, it's Stephen Curry. Now you might say, oh, people talk about Curry all the time, people are watching him play, he's always in the media. Right now, Stephen Curry is playing some of the best basketball in the league, and I don't feel like people are talking about it at that level. So I've tuned into a couple of Warriors games. Their slow start seems to be like it's shaking off, and you know, they're coming into their own just like I said they would out of that championship hangover. So far, Stephen Curry is averaging 26 points, 6 assists, almost 7 assists actually, and he's shooting 50% from the field. His 3-point percentage is 41%, and the game looks super duper easy to him right now. He's having a couple of those games that he had in 2016 where in 3 quarters all his work was done, and he looks a bit more comfortable on the floor now with Kevin Durant. We know when KD joined the team last year, of course that was the first time the Warriors had another player aside from Curry that was going to handle the ball, so we expected him to drop off a bit, but he looks completely comfortable right now. He's playing at a really high level, and I know why nobody's really talking about it. First of all, it's because I don't think anything Curry does while Kevin Durant is on the team is ever going to top what he did in 2016. That season of basketball was kind of transcendent, and that's piled on top of the fact that I believe a lot of people probably have Warriors fatigue right now. When you look at it, we've really been keeping up with this team since the end of 2014 because that's when they really came on as a contender, and they've been dominant every single year. Even in 2016 when they lost, they were still dominant that whole season. So we've gotten used to seeing him shoot from ridiculous ranges and picking the ball up off the dribble and hitting shots with multiple defenders on him. We've just gotten used to all of these things by now, and you can kind of tell the media is looking for something else. And not that Giannis Antetokounmpo doesn't deserve the praise that he's got at the beginning of this season, but you could kind of tell the media was looking for something new with his story and Kobe Bryant challenging him and how he came into the season so dominant. Media immediately latched onto him, and the Bucks have cooled off a little bit since then. But for a guy like Curry who's throwing his name back in the MVP conversation, I don't see a lot of talk going on about him. But he's really silently slipped his name back into that MVP race, and at the beginning of the season people were thinking of players that probably, didn't have as much help as him for the MVP. But even for me, Kawhi was one of my picks, but Kawhi Leonard hasn't played at all and I have no clue when he's coming back, so we're just kind of dealing with what we got right now. This next player is being talked about, but for the most part this season it's been for the wrong reasons, and that's LeBron James. Now LeBron just got done completely torching the Wizards because John Wall, just like he did with Lonzo Ball, decided to say something before the game, and LeBron walked into Washington real smooth and almost hung 60 on those guys. So of course he's been in the media since then and people have been talking about him, but I feel like that's just starting to shed the light on how good he's actually been playing this season. The Cavaliers have been losing a lot of teams, and that has a lot to do with just a dysfunctional defense from what I've seen. That's like, the defense was bad last year, but God, it is atrocious this year. But to me that's overshadowing what LeBron is doing in his 15th season of basketball. Currently this guy is averaging 29 points, almost 9 assists, and almost 8 rebounds. So at the age of 32, he's floating around a 30-point triple-double, but the craziest part about that is his field goal percentage is 61%. But of course we know for the better part of a decade now, LeBron James has been the love-hate relationship with the media. So you have one side that completely hates him, and you have one side that completely loves him and can never say anything wrong about him. Then you have the people in the middle like me that just kind of report on what we see. And the thing is, I'm realistic about it. I know that when LeBron James is losing, nobody's going to talk about anything positive. Nobody's going to talk about these numbers that he's putting up. But this is kind of amazing, actually. I completely agree that the Cavaliers, with the roster they have, should not have any more than one loss on the record this season. They should be the top team in the East. But I just wanted to stop and take a moment to shine a light on this and try to get the guy some credit for what he's done. Because we're talking about someone who's never averaged under 20 points in his career. He's done plenty of carrying in his career before the Miami days, of course. I'm talking to the days of when he had like Ilgauskas and Mo Williams. So pretty much the days when he was averaging around 30 points a game. And I'm looking back at the start of the 2007-2008 season, and if you would have told me back then 10 years from now LeBron James is going to be playing almost exactly the same, if not better than he is right now, I would have probably questioned it, because we knew he was a freak of nature, but when you can sustain that level of play for that amount of time, that deserves some credit. Now, whether that translates to the Cavaliers turning their season around and playing better, I don't know, because even though he scored almost 60 points against the Wizards the other night, Washington was in that game for a pretty long time, and Cleveland's defense is still terrible. So even if LeBron keeps us up, we know that he's judged on how good his teams do. Whether that's fair or not, that's just kind of how he's judged, so this might continue to be overlooked. And now on to the last guy, and this one is a little bit fun because he plays for the Chicago Bulls, and I'm not sure anybody has had anything positive to say about Chicago with their management decisions, but it seems after all the suffering this decade, they finally ran into some good luck. First off, Nikolai Mirotic ran into some unfortunate circumstances, so he's not with the Bulls right now, but that's paved the way for their new power forward pickup who's a rookie, Lauri Markkanen, and this guy looks really good so far. I have no shame in saying I had never heard of this guy before I watched the Bulls this season, and he shoots the ball so well that I initially thought he was a shooting guard. Now, I was watching the game on my phone, so the scale was a bit off, and then I looked it up and I was like, wow, this guy's a 7-foot power forward. That's really important in today's game because, of course, the stretch four has become one of the most valuable pieces that a team can have, and that's a good thing for the Bulls to have going forward. So he's currently averaging 16 points and 9 rebounds, which is quite a lot for a rookie that nobody's really talking about, but I guess that's kind of expected because we were all waiting for Ben Simmons and he's putting on a show so far. So this guy is kind of suffering from playing in Chicago and coming at the same time as Lonzo Ball and Ben Simmons, but yeah, he's one of the top rookies right now. Nobody's really mentioning it. And to the point of this recording, he's made 22 3-pointers and 22 2-point shots, so he's made the same exact amount of threes as he has 2-point field goals. It's pretty impressive for a power forward. My favorite part about this for the Bulls is that they're completely burned to the ground right now. They left Derrick Rose a couple of years ago. You know, last season I said they should have started the rebuild. I had no clue why they tried the whole Rondo, Butler, and Wade thing, but they burned that down. And so now the forest is just completely barren, looking for new growth. And the other good part about this is, I don't know how many of you noticed, but this was part of the deal that sent Jimmy Butler away. When they sent him to the Wolves, they got Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, and they got Lauri Markkanen because he was the 7th overall pick. At the time, people were saying, you know, there had to be a better deal than Zach LaVine, who has a torn ACL, and a rookie that nobody was really talking much about. But so far, so good, and depending on how Zach LaVine recovers from that ACL, they're going to have some nice pieces going forward, some nice young pieces. So that's what I got for you guys today. This wasn't really for completely unknown players that nobody's really talking about, because of course people are talking about LeBron and Westbrook, but it was more things that these players are doing that nobody's really giving credit to or paying attention to, especially Lauri Markkanen. And I can understand that one, because unless you're watching highlights or you have League Pass, you know, he's not going to get a lot of exposure just yet. So make sure to keep an eye on these things, because these are the type of things early in the season that might shape where we are later in the season. For instance, if the MVP race ends up involving heavily Steph Curry and LeBron James again, that's going to be interesting, because we know last year it was mostly between Westbrook and Harden and everybody else was kind of on the outside, and so far it looks like it could develop a lot differently this year, and that could be interesting. So hit the like button, comment, and sub if you enjoyed. Hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications on future videos. I'm Dom2K, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.